I really think you guys are going to like this conversation because I'm speaking to Aaron. He's the CEO of ATN, and he talks about private trading networks, right? And I love that because this is a topic I really didn't know much about. And I love that he talks about how he really, went into a loss of 100K and then turned all of that into 25K per month automation income machine for him and his family. And he did it to retire his wife, but also to help his dad. His dad has a Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and he really wanted to, really support his family. And he found this way to do it. And I just love conversations where you learn something new and can connect with an authentic person who is really about helping others. So I'm going to go ahead and shut up. I really need you to go ahead and grab a pen and pad because we get into a bunch of things here. And that way you have a way to connect with Aaron if this really resonates and aligns with you, if you want to make passive income in a way that maybe you never thought of before. All right, let's do it. What's up, y'all? This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. I am so freaking stoked that you're here. I got a call, I think it was yesterday or whatever, from my podcast coach. I think it's like over 200,000 views on YouTube, over 140 something thousand downloads or whatever. You guys are freaking crushing it, and I just want to thank you so freaking much. So let's get that out the way because, as you know, I find the best humans on the planet to come on here to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. And today is no exception, y'all. You guys are going to love this guy. His name is Aaron Richards. He's the founder and CEO of ATN and a master private trading network. That's a lot to say. Who turned a string of 100K losses into 25K per month automated income machines. Okay. So Aaron's why is rooted in family, retiring his wife, Brooke, so that she can be with the two kids. I love that so much, Aaron. We need more of that. Okay. So you got to help more people do that because I think it's something so beautiful and important with having mom at the home. That's just my thing. Right. So he launched ATN in 2022 to help others tap into that same life-changing passive income model. And if you've ever wondered how to create this hands-free cash flow, all of that great stuff, that's why I have him on the show. So welcome, Aaron. How are you?
I'm excellent. All right. Thanks for the introduction, Nina. I don't know if I've had as good of an introduction as that before, so I appreciate it.
Good. Good. That's what I like to hear. Aaron, no, really. I mean, the first time we met, right, same thing. You have good energy. I like what you're about. I like what your focus is and where you're going with this and how you want to help others. And that's my thing. I just want to bring good things to the world. I want us to be able to impact as many people as possible. And so I want to start off with letting people get to know you a little bit. So who are you, Aaron? Like, who are you? I gave an intro, but who are you? Who are you?
Yeah, well, I'm a husband, a father of two beautiful children. I live in Phoenix, Arizona now, but I was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. I lived there until I was about 19. I went to Kentucky for a year, and that was a bit of a struggle. I played college football down there, and
Hmm.
I realized that college football wasn't exactly for me. And I decided to move to Arizona and pursue my education, get my work history started, and eventually climb the corporate ladder there. And, I'm somebody that I'm a Christian. My parents were both pastors. I believe in higher education, but I also believe in self-education. And I believe in having a great time, earning a lot of money while you do it.
Right? I think there's something to be said about, I love what you just said too. I believe in higher education, but I also believe in self-education because I think that a lot of these higher education platforms could be great, but they also don't give you what life experience is going to give you or what life throws at you, right? Because when I was introducing you, I talked about how you went from losing six figures and turned that into something else, right? So you turn that into earning 25K a month, right? So, and you're helping others do that. So, can we talk about that? Do you mind like digging into that a little bit? Like, where did you start? Like, how losing the 100K? Why losing that? Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah. Oh man.
I know. Sorry. Let's take a breath, right? Let's
You're
take a
right. Take a breath. That was a lot of money to lose, and
Yes.
didn't have it, in spades to lose it like that. It
Mm-hmm,
was
mm-hmm.
definitely something that, high risk, high reward, and I, succumbed to the actual risk of those investments. I was looking for an opportunity to, as you mentioned, retire my wife. When I moved to Los Angeles and I was making, more than six figures or six figures plus, and things I felt like were great. Combined income was really good. We were considered accredited investors. Life was solid, but I realized that we were on kind of like a hamster wheel. Is like, if we keep doing this, it's going to, we're going to be living this type of life for the next 10, 15 years until something breaks, something is able to be figured out. And so what I really wanted to do was put my wife in a position to where she could take care of the kids full time. But she also had dreams and aspirations to open her own in-home childcare facility. And I really wanted to support her in that. So to be honest, and this is funny because one of my employees asked me, he's like, man, I want to retire my fiance. We'll be married early next year, and I want to follow in the footsteps of you, man. I want to be able to retire her, and she's got a daughter that we're co-parenting. So I really want her to be able to spend more time with her daughter and be able to raise our future children and things like that.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, and it was great. It was, it's great to be an inspiration in that way. But I was like, in actuality, we were supposed to take a 1 year break from her working full time. She was working like 12-hour days as a nanny, and take a 1 year gap so she could start her business. Well, in that 1 year gap, we moved into our new home in Southern California. And that was like, we realized some logistics, like, okay, if it's going to be in home and I'm going to be taking calls and doing kind of my
Mm,
work, and there's going to be 5 or 7 or 10 kids that are just running throughout the house, these walls are kind of thin.
mm-hmm.
So logistically, we were just like, well, maybe we'll kind of pause on that and maybe like figure out if we're going to put an extension on the home, if we're going to do something along those lines. And that 1 year gap turned to 2 years, and then turned to 3 years. And now we're sitting at the end of this year. It'll be 5 years. And it just life circumstances have adjusted. My income has exponentially increased. And so that's something that over time we've decided, okay, it's not necessary for you to contribute financially so much. So we're still kind of slow playing that whole process.
Yeah. It's interesting though, right? Because I think life can be that way. Like you always think that it has to happen like right now, right? She could have easily been discouraged and been like, "Oh, it's been a year." And then it's 2 and then it's 3. But does faith play a role in your life, Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely it does. As
Yeah.
I mentioned, my parents were both pastors, and so
Yeah.
that's God is the center of our house for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say that because our plans are never God's plans, right?
No.
It's like that graph where our plans are like this and his plans are like, you know, it's like amazing. I love that though, and I love the goal. I think, and that's a really great inspiration also for the young man who said, "I want to, do that for my fiance." I think it's a great thing when we can support each other like that, and I love that you have done that. So was the loss of that 100 grand, like did that bring a lot of stress and pressure onto the family? Was that like after she was having the kids or before? Talk to me about that transition.
No, so we had our daughter in 2019. So she was just before being a COVID baby. We were very fortunate that she had a solid year before
Yeah,
COVID.
yeah.
She was meeting friends and going to the park and doing the all the normal activities. And then fortunately as well, my wife being a nanny, she cared for two kids that were 3 and 5 at that time. So we had a 1 year old, a 3 year old, and a 5 year old, all in
Mm.
our 600 square foot apartment in Venice, California. So it was rough
Whoa.
during
That's
COVID.
rough.
It
Yes,
was
that is rough.
it was rough. Both of us working, me working as a counselor for the university and things like that. So it was something to where we had positioned ourselves. We had paid off all of our consumer debt. Right, we were listening to
Amazing.
Dave
Yeah.
Ramsey.
Yes.
And that was something that we wanted to go on there and do our debt-free scream.
We're doing it right now, me and my hubby. Literally right now, we watch video 3.
Wow, congratulations on that. No,
Thank
that's an
you.
exciting accomplishment, and that's something that I wanted. And my parents were big into being debt free. That was a big part of what
Amazing.
they were proponents of. And so we focused for a solid year and a half on becoming debt free, and then we focused on saving up a nest egg in order to start to invest. And so with the savings, we were able to get to a point. Also, we had some equity in the home that we just purchased because we had got right before COVID and prices shot up. So we got
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
25% appreciation in like 6 months, which was insane.
Mm.
And so we used a bit of a HELOC into to have some capital. And so we invested it first into Shopify automation. And that was
Mhm.
something I wanted e-commerce because I wanted something scalable. I felt like, okay, I could do it, yes, but I also could hire someone from overseas to be able to oversee some of the operations. And so I wanted something that could be scalable and passive. And so I chose e-commerce. And
Okay.
that Shopify, it didn't work. The cost of advertising on
Yeah,
Facebook,
I hear that. I do hear that. Mhm.
yeah, it was ridiculous,
Mhm.
and it ate up all the profits. And then we pivoted to Amazon automation. And so Amazon automation, the whole story was Amazon's the biggest company in the world. At the time, it's, hey, do you use Amazon? I bet Amazon's going to be knocking at your door any minute, right? It was like, okay, the whole idea of everybody uses it. There's so many warehouses being built and all of these things. And so I was like, okay, great, I'll ride the wave of this. And it just was so much more expensive. Again, the cost to, find great suppliers.
Yes.
The biggest issue that we've actually experienced was, when you have $50,000 to be able to buy inventory, but you put a $50,000 order in, and the supplier is like, "Ooh, we only have $5,000 worth of that inventory,"
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then you're just like, "Okay, well, that's gonna severely impact my business because then the revenue is only going to be like maybe $10,000, and the
Mhm.
profit on that is not going to be anywhere near as high as you would want it to be." So we were
Mhm.
limited based off of the supplier's capacity. And that was a main reason why, along with a few other factors, but a main reason why that wasn't successful. And then
Yeah.
I went into Walmart, and Walmart was something that actually did work for a few months. It was successful. I was making more than $10,000 a month. And then, the terms of services changed, and my account was suspended for 4 months. They held $90,000, and that was a really tough situation. So,
Yeah.
all of the upfront costs of these businesses, the sunken cost of inventory that wasn't able to sell through, the chocolate, all the chocolate that got melted and these things like that. It was just a
Those
rough.
are real stories though, Aaron. And I love that, right? Because I think, you're speaking to my people right now. Like I have a lot of like entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, like leaders that listen to the show, right? And one of the things that I mean, it is called straight talk for God's sakes, right? Straight talk, no sugar added. So I talk a lot about like the the fake crap out there, right? Because it irritates the hell out of me. So it's like, I like real like things that really do help humans move forward and really help them move along. And I've even had like, some people that come on and for instance, I'll just use one example because it actually happened to me. I had someone come on who was talking about e-coms, and the what they were doing is like say Aaron wanted to have this business. So Aaron would give him $100,000 or whatever, and he would build the store out, supply it, do everything for you, blah, 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 blah. Well, then after like about a year or two after that episode came out, all of my peeps, because I had a lot of people out there, started sending me articles of how this person was robbing people doing this thing. I was like, what? They're like, you need to remove that interview. And so I had to remove the interview. I had to send an apology because I didn't know. It was 2 years ago. I didn't know. But the whole
Yeah.
thing is, Aaron, that hurts. That hurts like a mofo when you are working hard for your stuff. And then
Yeah.
you're like, right? Like you said, the chocolate melts, or they didn't have what I needed, or it didn't work. And that was a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of everything, right? So talk to me now about what you're doing, because what you're doing now is something I don't know much about. That's why I wanted you here, right? And most listeners have heard of stocks. They've heard maybe of crypto, even though I still 100% don't understand crypto. But you're doing private trading networks. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got it. Exactly.
Okay. So in plain English, what is that? Right? And how do they outperform all of these traditional passive income, plays that everybody's making out there? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it makes total
Okay.
sense.
Okay.
So private trading networks is simple. I was solving my own problem of trying to figure out passive income. Like I mentioned, I tried e-commerce, I tried Airbnb, I tried, trucking and different things of that nature.
Oh, so
And
you're an
so
entrepreneur. You just trying. I love that. Good for you.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Definitely an entrepreneur, definitely an investor, somebody who wants to see my capital grow,
Good.
preferably without my direct involvement. But of course, I do have, some sort of skills or connecting ability to be able to help influence some success. But I ultimately wanted it to be somewhat passive. And all the things that I had tried were not working. So I joined a mastermind. In that mastermind, I went to an event in Miami, and that event led me to a group of traders that were actually trading for high net worth individuals at the time. And so trading, simply put, is you are going into whatever asset class, whether it's stocks, whether it's crypto. But for us, we mainly focus on foreign exchange. Foreign exchange is the currency of, it's the United States dollars, the Canadian dollars, the Great Britain pound, it's the Australian dollar, all the different currencies in the world. You're pairing those together. So there's one kind of currency and another currency, and you are saying, I believe this currency is going to go up versus this one is going to go down, or vice versa. So you're just placing your trade based off of what you feel like those currencies are going to do in relation to each other. And what's happened is, before about 2010, that was mainly done manually. You're kind of clicking and dragging your mouse and doing a whole bunch of stuff as a manual trader. But since 2010, there's been an introduction of quantum computing, these algorithms and these things that make it automated. And that's allowed for more retail investors to get into the space. And so for me, when I was introduced to the traders, I wanted to see, okay, does this work? Can it work for me? How would this look? Will it actually grow consistently? All of those factors. And I was able to get permission to, get access to them for them to trade on my behalf. Well, it worked, to the tune of, an average of 4 or 5% on a monthly basis, but really looking year over year, around 40, 50+% on a year to year basis. And I was like, this is amazing. I've been looking for a solution like this for years. And it was something that, was, just a relationship away or just a connection away. And so what I did was, we started with just that one group, and then we've expanded it over the years to now we have 4 trading groups that we use. They all have different algorithms, multiple algorithms per group. They all have different strategies, different, kind of correlate, different non-correlated asset strategies and things of that nature that really help to diversify. And so how we got into it, again, was the introduction and kind of getting to know who can help in this way. But how we have evolved in the space is realizing that there is no one algorithm that's going to rule them all, right? It's more of having multiple different strategies, so you can have what's called diversification, right? Everybody's
right.
in investing, and to be able to outperform or outpace traditional markets. And the reason why it does allow for the outpacing of things is because the foreign exchange market is something like 70 times bigger than the stock market. And it's because it's all the world currency. It's not just the United States, businesses and things like that are in the stock market. So there's a lot more opportunities in that regard. And that's something that for us, we've seen a lot of consistent performance And the best performance, again, is with a diversified portfolio of non-correlated asset classes. Hopefully all that didn't go over your head. What questions do you
Some of it did, but that's okay. Because
Okay.
I'm just like thinking about like risk management, right? Like about having due diligence, all that kind of stuff. Because, someone like you, Aaron, who has lost a good amount of money, right? Losing 100K is not an easy thing to do. That's hard and that hurts, right? And you clearly have learned some pretty tough lessons about vetting, right? And having opportunities and stuff like that. So I'm just, as you're talking, I'm just thinking, what guardrails or what like criteria do you now insist on before you start committing to
Yeah.
any capital to these automated income ventures, right? Because I'm sure people are thinking, okay, but how do I, how am I careful with that, right? What guardrails do I put up? Like, can you
Yeah.
answer that? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, everything that I do, I get into myself first, right? And so it's always tested by me personally, not just numbers on the screen, not just,
Mm,
oh, that sounds good. I'm going to introduce that to my community. I remember when I was 5 years old, my dad, who had me when he was 41, so he was a little older, he's probably 46, 47 years old. So he was sage already at that time. And he told me, he's like, son, you're a leader. Right. And he said it in his
mm,
Ghanaian voice. He's West African. So I won't try to do an imitation, but I wouldn't do it justice. But he's like, son, you're a leader and you could use your abilities for good, or you can use your abilities to lead people down the wrong path. And so what I always knew was, of course, what he said, but I also knew that I had a level of influence. And
yeah.
so I wanted to, whatever I was influencing people to do, have it be right, have it be above board, have it be something that is I'm confident behind. And so that was one of the things that did make me a good counselor or a good customer service representative or whatever the career path would have been. It was something that I was convicted of whatever it was that I was talking about. And so the conviction comes from actually experiencing it and going through it myself. My capital is in the same algorithms that we provide access to for our clients. So
Okay.
that's the one piece, making sure that I've seen it and actually experienced the success of it myself. The other piece is, what's the history? What's the track record? How has this performed year over year? So there's a third party verifier that we use in order to have an unbiased way to be able to look at all of the trades, all of the different market conditions of each of the different strategies,
Mm-hmm.
which makes it very helpful. And then the last piece is actually having a relationship with the trading teams.
Mm-hmm.
So these could have been referrals or people that are a part of the network that I'm in with the mastermind, or just as far as word of mouth, knowing that certain traders are producing great results for their communities, and just coming in and providing them the opportunity. It's a joint venture of sorts, because these guys are good at what they do, which is to operate algorithms and do it profitably. I'm good at what I do, which is to bring community and bring people with fairly deep pockets to be able to fund these algorithms, fund these different strategies. And then it's a win-win situation for everybody. The trader
Oh,
gets
gotcha.
more management, the actual client gets performance month over month, and then for us as a consulting company, we're able
Okay.
to continue to drive business for ourselves.
That's what I was going to ask you about, your piece in this, right? Because as you're talking, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember one of my sons started to get into this foreign exchange. I didn't know what it was until you started talking about it a little bit. And he got burnt out a little fast. And I think it's because he tried to understand it. I think it was a little bit hard to understand, or maybe he didn't have good leadership. I'm not sure. So what
Yeah.
I want to dive into a little bit before, I wrap up, because I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, dang it, I have a lot of questions. Okay. So tell me about what ATN does. Like, if somebody's listening, does not really know much about foreign exchange, but wants to align themselves with a company that they can trust. So tell me a little bit about what you do and how this is helpful for them. What could this bring to them? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, simply put, for people that are looking for passive income, automated income, they're looking for some sort of solution that takes them out of the time for dollars trap. They don't want another second job. They don't want to
Right,
stare.
right.
They don't want to stare at a screen and learn a new skill set. It's more so something that they want to be on autopilot for themselves. That is something that we are able to provide in the way of giving them access to trading algorithms, but more importantly than a do-it-yourself trading algorithm, we give you access to the teams of professional traders
I
that will
see.
actually make sure to operate it on your behalf.
I
They'll
see.
make sure that they provide a level of oversight, so that way you're not the one who's actually having to click buttons and press different things that you don't really know exactly how to
Yeah.
operate. It's
Hmm.
just someone else is actually able to operate that on your behalf.
I see. Okay. And so if someone's listening and thinking about this, what would you say would be a reasonable way to start? Like a reasonable, I should say a reasonable amount of money to start with, right? Because I think it's important. I think they need to know, is it $100? Is it 1,000? Is it 10,000? I don't know because I don't know this field, right? So what do you think would be reasonable for those who are listening if they were looking to kind of dip their toe in this a bit?
Yeah, so everybody's, kind of goals are going to be different. And so of
Yeah.
course, not only are your goals going to be different, your financial circumstances will be different. And so of course, all of this needs to be understood. All capital that gets put into any algorithm or working on any sort of passive income opportunity, it needs to be risk capital.
Yeah.
Risk
Yeah.
capital means that you
Yeah.
are willing to risk it and it could go to
Yeah.
zero, and that will not affect your mortgage payments the next month. It will not affect you being able to buy groceries or, pay for the things that are immediately due. And that's really important. And that's why,
I love that you said that. I love that you said that.
yeah,
Yeah,
of
because
course.
a lot of people think that, it's gonna be an automatic, and nothing is like that. Nothing, not even your job is an automatic. That's not even promised, right? So you should always have that play. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. And I do thank you for acknowledging how important that is, because it's not all going to go up and to the right.
Right.
This is the market that we're dealing with. And so there are ups and there are downs. But fortunately, over time, year over year, we've been very profitable and things have been very good. But past results don't dictate future results. So that being said, we make sure that everybody's clear on the expectations when it comes to performance and, kind of how consistently things can look. Now, in terms of how much capital they have or they have to make this successful, of course, there's an upfront fee for us. Depends on where you come in, depending on where you're at, between $20,000 and $60,000 for the consulting services that we provide, giving you access to the trading teams and then giving you support along the way. And then, of course, you need to fund your account with whatever it is that you deem as risk capital. So
Mhm.
just doing kind of the math of what traditional returns look like year over year, whether 30, 50, 80% on a year over year basis, then you can kind of do the math on ROI and
Yeah.
justification and things of that nature. So,
Do you guys help them with that, Aaron? Does ATN help them with that? Kind of
we
learn that a bit?
Yeah, we give them, like, because we don't recommend, we don't give advice, but we do talk about what other clients have done, what we've
Mhm.
seen in the
Mhm.
past, things of that nature. So we do have a level of, kind of communication in terms of how things typically look. And we give all our clients a good amount of information, not too much that'll, again, flood their brain, but
Right.
enough for them to be able to make informed decisions and to be able to, help them and support them along the way.
That's fantastic. I really love that. And I love what you're doing. And I love why you're doing it too, because, not just to retire your wife, but I believe I was reading in your bio about your dad, right? I believe, was it Parkinson's, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, he's
He had
got
about,
advanced stages of Parkinson's, dementia, and Alzheimer's. So yeah,
oh,
it's
and
pretty
that's
tough.
a lot, right? Yeah, that's tough. And I know that some, why you do what you do is also for that purpose, right? To kind of help with that, right? And that's a beautiful thing to do and to see and I admire you for that, Aaron. I really admire you for that because I think
Well,
that is our goal. That should be our I think anyway, that's just me, but I feel like when we have good parents and parents who have been good to us, and they become older and are a little bit more frail, I think it should be, on us to help them out a bit,
Yeah. Well, my dad
um
got diagnosed when I was 12 years old.
oh,
And
young.
so, of course, nothing I could really do about it at that
Yeah,
point. Right.
yeah,
And then when I was 18 and, was kind of getting ready to leave the house, it was still, I had a lot of stuff that I needed to figure out. It was things that I was working through and just trying to become a man in this world. And
yeah.
so I didn't really have a lot of contribution that I could help with for my parents either. And maybe that's a little bit of, just feeling like, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't
Mhm,
know. How am I supposed to help? But
mhm.
as I became, 22 and 23 and starting to work and then consciously realizing the burden that it was putting on my mom, who, as a caregiver, the thing that you don't realize about caregivers is they actually need a lot of attention themselves.
Yeah,
They need a lot
yeah.
of
They're
assistance.
neglected a lot. Yeah,
They're very
yeah.
neglected. So sometimes they end up neglecting their physical health, their
Mhm.
mental health. It's like you got nurses. I remember my mom, was taking care of my dad when all of her kids were out of the house. All their kids were out of the house, and my dad like had an episode where he walked out of the front door. He's not doing well. He's looped up on a bunch of different pills and pain medication, and he walks out of the front door and like falls face first off a ledge.
Oh,
And he ends up like the ambulance has to come and all this stuff, and the paramedics were looking at my mom like, how did this happen? What was he doing? Why was he? And like they were kind of like, the tone was like that she could have prevented it or she had
yeah.
something to do with it. And that's kind of how some of the nurses and how some of the doctors would look at her and kind of like
I
have that
know.
sort
It's
of
so
tone.
sad. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that struggle for her, I didn't realize was happening until I became 22, 23, and just started
Yeah.
to realize the burden. And so at that point, I was starting to figure out how could I use my excess capital, which at that time I really didn't have any. How could I help and provide a level of relief for my mom? And so when the time came to when I was able to really contribute very substantially to his care, it not only, of course, helped my dad, and now he's he's got medical tourism, so he's down in Medellin. He's got excellent care. He's in a penthouse. He's got 24-hour staff. Excellent
I miss that
circumstances.
so much. Oh my God.
And for him, his circumstances are great, but then that out of pocket money that my mom was having to pay on her salary, now she's freed up to continue to pad her money that's in retirement and be able to position other investments and things of that nature that we've been able to help her with.
Isn't that
So
a beautiful thing,
another
Aaron?
another amazing thing for me, I feel like, for my parents and my family, is I'm actually the house that I grew up in. I'm from Westchester, Ohio, which is about 20 or so minutes away north of Cincinnati. And that's the house that I moved in when I was 9 years old. And that house represented my parents' American dream. My dad is from Africa. My mom's from Cleveland, but she grew up, in a pretty impoverished situation. And so they were living in like this, like, 1,000 square foot place. That was their first home that they bought, and that was really they were proud of. But they moved on up, to the
Yeah.
east side, right? And they moved to Westchester, which is a nicer place. And so they bought their dream house. They had it built, and so they lived in it and they paid it off, and everything was great. And so now, 23 years later, I'm actually closing on that house today,
Oh, so cool.
keep it in the family and give my mom a
Oh,
little bit of extra cash flow now. And so all of that, has come pretty full circle. So very
I
happy
love
to.
that so much. That's so awesome. I love that. Thank you for giving us that story. And I'm
Yeah.
so grateful that you have dad in a penthouse chilling somewhere. That's amazing. Isn't it awesome? Like, right, to be able, because like when you said that you started to notice at about 22, 23, that means mom was already like 13, 14 years in.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like that's and raised kids on top of that, right? So that I mean, bravo to mom, man. Bravo to mom, because that's a hard thing to do. So I am super proud of what you're doing. I love what you're doing, and I think you can change a lot of people's lives, not just in the trading and all of that. That's yes, that's a big piece of it. But I'm talking about the education piece. I'm talking
Yeah.
about shifting people's perspectives, the way they think, maybe the small thinking, the impoverished thinking, like the all of that, right? And you were real about it. You're like, listen, it has to be money that you're willing to risk, because I think that that's another way of thinking that a lot of people miss. They think that, oh wait, I'm going to give Aaron my money and he's going to make me rich. That's not how this works. And you have to be willing to understand that that's not how this works, right, Aaron? But also the fact that you just mentioned in this interview that you are a Christian. You mentioned family values. You mentioned somebody looking up to you and shifting them, right? So when you mention those things, you also know that you have to be a person of integrity in order to be successful.
Yeah.
Right. And when me and you first spoke, I think that's what made me go, all right, I want Aaron on the show, because you seem to align yourself with those values. And
Yeah.
so I want to make sure people can connect with you and learn how to do this foreign exchange thing, and really just like be invested in themselves, but also in their family line, in their greatness, and the things that they want to bring into the world. So give us that. How do people find you, work with you, like all that great stuff?
Yeah, for sure. And so the first thing that I would say for anyone that may be being introduced to me for the first time, I'm on your audience, and there's some people that may search for me that already are somewhat familiar. I would just say, you go to my YouTube, it's at ATN Unlimited, or you can go to my Instagram, which is at Aaron official _, and just kind of consume some of the content that I already have there. Some of the client testimonials or the interviews that I've had. We have podcasts that me and my executive team do as well. And some on there with my family, some with my mom, and just get to know me a little bit more, get an idea of who it is that you would actually potentially be working with. My clients are really surprised when I do take the time to meet with each and every one of them before they actually join, just to make sure we're aligned and everything makes sense. And they're like, man, no other CEO that we've ever experienced has taken this time and been so focused on, meeting people up front. So I just want you to make sure to consume some of the content and know if I'm somebody that you would potentially want to work with. And then when you do eventually find yourself on a call with one of my representatives, just have an honest conversation about what your goals are, what your expectations are, and see if we can help. And if we can, excellent, then we'll kind of work you through the process and get things started. But otherwise, it's just about making sure that everybody understands that there's a better way to do pretty much everything. So
yeah, that's true.
That's what we believe in.
That's a true statement. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on Straight Talk and just dropping a lot of value for my audience, and also explaining what this is, right? Because a lot of us just don't know what this is, right? So of course we've heard of the Fortune 500 and Wall Street, and we've heard of crypto, and we've heard of all of that. And this was a little bit more of a newer concept for me. So I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much, Aaron.
100%.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
I love it. Guys, thank you guys so much. I told you, right? Really good human, really good people, doing great things. I'm going to make sure to list all of Aaron's information below, because I know that you guys are freaking awesome at working out a lot of the people that have come on this show. So I want you to go ahead and reach out to Aaron, but also I'm going to link his YouTube on there and all of his links to make sure that you can connect, so that you know exactly what you're doing, how you're doing it, and have an expert really kind of guide you in that. Don't try to do this on your own. This kind of stuff, this is the kind of stuff I recommend you don't do on your own, because I'm telling you, it don't work. Okay. I've spent lots of money trying to do stuff on my own. It doesn't work. So make sure you guys connect with Aaron. I love you guys so much. This is Neena Perez, Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.